Today we are taking notes over percent of change. Percent of change is basically talking about the difference over the original and the percent over 100. So we're most likely trying to find percent of what is changing. An example I used is y'all's height. Y'all's height changes as you grow, and if you wanted to figure out the percent that it's changed, you could use this formula. So here it is again. The reason, and the word difference means subtract. So we know whenever we see the word difference or change, we know we are going to be subtracting. And whenever you see the words percent of change, you will be dealing with this equation. So it says last year McDermott Elementary School had 750 students enrolled. This year they have 600 students enrolled. What is the percent of change? Whenever you see the word percent of change, you know you are dealing with the difference over the original. Not part over total, the difference over the original. So when I look over here, I'm going to do exactly like we did previously, except for I'm going to use difference over original, and this is a D. So, and this is going to be the percent and 100. So whenever I look over here now, before I get started, I say 750 students, and now there's 600. That number went down, so my percent is going to be a decrease. Whatever my percentage is a decrease. So now I say percent. Okay, I don't know the percent, so I'm going to write X, and this will be 100. The original amount of students that were there was 750, and the difference means we need to subtract. So what is the difference between 750 and 600 is what it's asking. So I'm going to subtract these, and I am going to get that there is a 150 student difference than last year. So 150 students is the difference. So what we're going to do now is we are going to cross multiply and divide. So I'm going to do 150 times 100. Whenever you are multiplying by 100, that is like moving the decimal point to the right 2 times. So that is going to be 15,000 divided by the number that was by itself, which is 750. The trick that I taught y'all is whenever the outside number and the inside number both have zeros, you can get rid of the same number. So I can get rid of this 0, and I can get rid of that 0. 75 goes into 150 2 times evenly, the remainder of 0, and 75 goes into 0 0 times. So at McDermott Elementary School, it went, the number of students was a 20% decrease. The number of students decreased by 20%. So this next problem says, Bob's clothing store buys coats for $50 and sells them for $80. What is the percent of markup? Whenever you see something like markup, markdown, that's also talking about percent of change. So I know I'm dealing with the difference over the original. So I'm going to write that over here, difference over the original, and this would be percent, and it won't let me write over there, but that's percent over 100. So looking at this, my percent I do not know, so I'm going to write X over 100 because percent is always on top of 100. The original amount of the coats that he's selling were $50, and he's selling them for more. So sorry, 50 to 100, it's increasing. So whatever my percent of change is, it's going to be increasing. So I need to find the difference between the 80 and the 50. So I'm going to say 80 minus the 50, and I get 30. So they're charging $30 more than it's worth for them to buy. So they're making a $30 profit on each coat. Now we could cross multiply and divide, or we could say, hey, how did I get from 50 to 100? I multiplied by 2, and whatever I do to the bottom, I am going to do to the top. And 30 times 2 gives me 60. So they are charging 60% more. It's a 60% increase in price from what they bought it for. So they're making a 60% profit basically. So over here it says in the 7th grade Rachel read 15 books. In the 8th grade she read 18 books. Determine the percent of change. Whenever I see percent of change, I know I'm dealing with the difference over the original. Okay, percent of change. So is it increasing? Did she read more books or less books this year? Looks like she read more, so it's going to be a percent increase. So I'm going to write the difference over the original. The difference, we're not quite sure yet. Percent, I do not know, so I'm going to fill this in as X. Over percent is always on top of 100. The original amount of books she read last year was 15. The difference, we need to subtract the 15 books and the 18 books because the word difference means subtract. And when I do this, I get 3. So there are a few ways you can solve this. One way you can say is, hey, 15 divided by 5 will give me 3, so 100 divided by 5, and it won't let me write any further, divided by 5 will give me the answer. If you don't know, if you don't see this, then you can always cross multiply and divide. It's not always the easiest way, but you can always cross multiply and divide. So 3 times 100 is 300, and 300 divided by 15, 15 goes into 30 2 times, remainder of 0, and 15 goes into 0 0 times. And if you would have done 100 divided by 5, you would have also got 20. So this is a 20% increase. So it's going up. This one says a Blu-ray costs $49.99 and it goes on sale for $29.99. What is the percent of change? Whenever you see percent of change, you know you are dealing with the difference over the original. Okay, and I like to make my numbers nice, so we rounded these. $49.99 we rounded to be 50, and $29.99 we rounded to be about 30. We are looking for percent, and percent is always on top of 100, so X over 100. The original amount of this Blu-ray was $50, and we need to find the difference. So how much is it on sale for? So I'm going to subtract these two, and I'm going to say $50 minus $30, and it gives me 20. So this is on sale for $20 off. Well, what percent is that? So I can cross multiply and divide, but there is definitely an easier way. 50 times 2, whatever I do to the bottom, let's do to the top. And 20 times 2 gives me a 40% increase or decrease. This number went down, so it's a decrease. Or you can just draw the down arrow. Okay, so looking at these ones, it says last year there were 60 students signed up for choir. This year the number increased 25%. How many students are in choir this year? It does not say percent of change. It does not say mark up or mark down, so we know we are actually dealing with part over total. This is basically what we've already been doing. I'm going to show you 2 ways to solve this. Increase means we are adding. One way you can do this is at the beginning. You can add 100 plus the 25, and a way to show this is basically this entire bar will represent 100% of the students last year. So last year 100% was 60 students. Now we want to increase this bar by 25%. So one way you could do this is you could say, well, let's figure out what this all is together, because it's asking me for how many total students there are this year. So you could say, well, 125 gives me 125%, and percent is always out of 100. There were a total of 60 students last year, and we're looking for the part. Or you could set it up as, well, I'm only looking for this little piece right here, so it would be 25 on top of 100 and X over 60. If you solve either one of these will be correct. With the bottom one, you will have to add in at the end. So we'll do this bottom way first. So it's going to be 60 times 25 divided by 100. So I'm going to do 25 times 60. I put the 60 on the bottom because the 0. 6 times 5 gives me 30. 6 times 2 gives me 12, plus 3 gives me 15. Divide by 100, we move the decimal point over 2 times, and I get 15. So this piece right here is 15. But it's asking me for the total, so you would do 60 plus the 15 to get 75 people are in choir this year in PPL. Okay, or we could have already added them and done the math, and you would have got 125 times the 60. It's going to be sorry, that's a 3, that's 5, 1, that's 7. Dividing by 100 is like moving the decimal point over 2 times. And this should be a 0, what I was thinking. 1, 2, and this would be 75 people. So we would get the exact same answer, regardless of how. This way we added at the beginning, this way we added at the end. So looking at this next one, it says last year a pair of Nike shoes was priced at $130. This year the price decreased 35%. What is the price of the shoes below? It doesn't say percent increase or decrease, so we know we're dealing with part over total. Once again, there's 2 ways we can do this. The word decrease means subtract. So you could do 100 minus the 35 to get 65% and deal with the 65, or you can subtract at the end. So the first way will show subtracting at the beginning. We're going to put 65 over 100 and x over the total, which is 130. The other way you could set this up is subtracting at the end. So you would write x over 130 because that's still the total. This way we have 35% over 100. Okay, so we will do the second way first. And this would be, or I can draw the picture as well. So this entire bar represents 100% of the shoes last year. Now, this entire thing represents $130. We want to cut off 35% of this. So we're only looking for the 65. So we have to figure out what is the part of that. So we would do 130 times 35 divided by 100. So 130 times 35 is 15. And when I add it all together, I get 4,550. Whenever I need to divide this by 100, I need to move the decimal over 2 times, and it's $45.50. Now, I am not going to be spending $45.50 on a brand new pair of Nike shoes that are only 35% off. This is how much they are taking off the original price. So what I need to do is, I'll do it over here, $130 minus the $45.50 to get the price that I will be paying. So whenever I do this, you would get $84.50. And that is how much you are actually paying. Another way to solve this would be we've already subtracted, so I don't have to deal with that. I'm going to do 130 times the 65. That will give me 5 times 3 is 15. It's going to be 6. 0 for place value, 0, 6 times 3 is 18, that's 7. And whenever I add it, I get 8,450. I need to divide this by 100 by moving the decimal point over 1 2 times, and I would get $84.50, which is the exact same. 2 different ways to solve it. You can choose whichever way you think is the best, and that is it.